The air in the real estate agency office felt unusually cold and heavy. Jennifer stared blankly at her monitor. The high-speed scanner was relentlessly churning out copies of property deeds a client had requested. The whirring and spitting sounds of the machine seemed to gnaw at Jennifer's very heart. As she organized the documents one by one, her eyes stopped on a familiar address, a new luxury condo in a prime location in Beverly Hills, California. That's where my mother-in-law lives, she thought. Casually, she checked the owner's name, Helen Parker. Her mother-in-law's name was printed in bold, unmistakable letters. A cold dread washed over her. On a hunch, a terrible suspicion forming in her mind, Jennifer began to search the public records database for the dozen or so properties her mother-in-law had amassed over a lifetime. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she couldn't stop. The owner of the first Beverly Hills condo was Mark, her husband and Helen's eldest son. The owner of the second, a commercial building, was Michael, the second son. The owner of the third, a penthouse apartment, was Susan, the youngest daughter. Jennifer's fingers flew across the keyboard, her breathing growing short and ragged. By the time she had checked the fourth, the fifth, and finally the 10th property, her vision had gone white. All 10 properties, the entirety of her mother-in-law's life's work, had already been neatly gifted to her children. When Jennifer checked the date of the transfers, a hollow, bitter laugh escaped her lips. January 15th of this year. It was the day immediately following her father-in-law's memorial service. The memory of that day, of that entire hellish week, washed over her as if it were yesterday, and she shuddered. The week preparing for the memorial last winter had been a living nightmare. Jennifer had woken up at 5 a.m. every day to go grocery shopping, her hands raw from soaking in cold water as she prepped vegetables. The smell of frying oil from making appetizers had clung to her hair and skin, so pervasive it made her nauseous. But Jennifer had borne it in silence. It was a major service, with over 8 relatives descending on the house, and Jennifer had worked like a kitchen servant, barely able to straighten her aching back. Meanwhile, her sister-in-law, Susan, was in the living room, elegantly sipping wine with the guests, her laughter echoing through the house. "You're working so hard, Jen," Susan had chirped, her words dripping with superficial praise. "Your cooking is just the best, as always." Wiping sweat from her brow, Jennifer had forced a smile. "It's okay, Susan. It's my job." The day after the service, the entire family gathered in the living room. Jennifer, wearing rubber gloves, was still in the kitchen, tackling a mountain of dirty dishes, watching the scene from the corner of her eye. Her mother-in-law, Helen, emerged from the master bedroom, holding a thick manila folder, and began handing out documents to each of her children. "Jennifer, when you're done with the dishes, bring out some fruit." At her mother-in-law's command, Jennifer quickly peeled and sliced fruit and brought it out on a platter. The atmosphere in the living room was festive. Helen, beaming with a benevolent smile, said to her children, "These properties are all yours now. With tax issues and all, I decided to sort it out early. Manage them well." Her husband, Mark, laughed brightly. "Mom, thank you so much. You're really the best." Susan chimed in from the side. "Thank you, Mom. I'll be the best daughter to you. Live a long, long life." While the children cheered and accepted their documents, Jennifer stood frozen on the spot. She mustered the courage to ask her husband, "Mark, what's happening in the living room?" Mark, popping a slice of apple into his mouth, answered nonchalantly, "Oh, Mom's gifting the properties. We got 2 places in Beverly Hills." Jennifer's heart pounded. She lowered her voice and asked again, "What about me? Is my name on anything? Is one of them in my name?" In an instant, the laughter in the living room died. Helen stared at Jennifer and scoffed. "Jennifer, what are you talking about? This is our family's wealth. Of course, I'm giving it to my children. Why would your name be on it?" A wave of injustice washed over Jennifer, and her voice began to tremble. "Helen, I've been a daughter-in-law in this family for 12 years. I've handled every memorial, every holiday, and I even nursed you back to health. I did it all." Her sister-in-law, Susan, cut in with a stern expression. "Jen, that's ridiculous. That's your duty as a daughter-in-law. Does it make any sense to give property to you, who doesn't share a single drop of our family's blood?" Mark, her husband, added insult to injury. "Jennifer, what's gotten into you today? Legally, it's proper for parents to gift assets to their children. Are you, a real estate agent, going to tell me, a lawyer, that you know the law better? Why have you suddenly become so greedy? At Mark's cold words, Jennifer felt the blood drain from her body. The people who had called her family for 12 years, who had used her for their every need, were now drawing a firm line, treating her as a complete outsider when it came to money. A profound sense of disillusionment washed over her. Jennifer returned to the kitchen and gripped the edge of the sink, her knuckles white. She felt tears welling up, but she clenched her jaw and held them back. She knew that crying now would be useless. Staring at the property deeds on her desk, Jennifer made a decision. She felt like an utter fool for the 12 years she had spent managing every family affair, for the months she had spent by Helen's bedside after her knee surgery, sleeping in a chair. She now realized that all her devotion had been nothing more than slave labor to increase someone else's wealth. Jennifer packed the printed documents into her briefcase and hurried home from work. When she arrived, her husband, Mark, was lounging on the living room sofa, humming a tune as he checked the market values of his newly acquired properties on his tablet. "You're home? What's for dinner?" "I'm starving. Go whip up a stew or something." Instead of answering, Jennifer pulled the stack of documents from her briefcase and slammed them down on the coffee table in front of him. "What's this?" Mark asked, startled. Jennifer stared at him with cold eyes. "They're the property deeds for your family's holdings. All 10 of them." Mark's face instantly turned ashen. "Why? Why did you look these up?" Jennifer sneered. "I was looking for my name. Searched high and low, but I couldn't find it. Funny how you called me family for 12 years when I was doing all the work, but when it came time to divide the assets, I was conveniently left out." Mark, turning the tables, began to shout. "I am so disappointed in you. This is the fortune my mother worked her whole life for, shedding blood, sweat, and tears. What right do you have? Are you a child of this family? You're just a daughter-in-law. Don't get confused." Jennifer continued in a calm, measured tone. "You're right. I'm not a child of your family. So why do I have to cook for every holiday? Why do I have to be the one to take care of your mother in the hospital? The children who received all the assets should be the ones doing that, shouldn't they?" Mark let out a disbelieving laugh. "Are you rebelling now? You dare talk to me like that?" Jennifer, already packing a suitcase, replied, "No, this isn't rebellion. It's independence." Entering the master bedroom, Jennifer opened a secret folder she had kept on her laptop. Inside were meticulously organized files, every hospital bill for her mother-in-law, receipts for holiday expenses, and text messages containing the family's unreasonable demands. Mark pounded on the door, shouting, "Hey, Jennifer, get out here right now. Who do you think you are? Locking the door on me?" Jennifer didn't flinch. She was going to teach them, the ones who held all the assets, a harsh lesson about responsibility. In the real war that was about to begin, Jennifer was no longer the nice daughter-in-law. Jennifer looked down at her husband, Mark, who was sitting on the living room sofa with a cold gaze. In her hand, she clutched a USB drive she had found in his office. Her voice, unusually low and chilling, cut through the air. "I know everything now. I know you reviewed and engineered those gift documents from start to finish. How could you do this to me?" Mark roughly folded the newspaper he was reading, his brow furrowed. Far from being apologetic, he adjusted his glasses with an annoyed air and stared at her. "Jennifer, please, stop being so emotional. How many times do I have to tell you? Let's look at this legally." Legally, a parent wants to give their property to their own children. Why are you, the daughter-in-law, making such a fuss? Jennifer was so stunned, she let out a hollow laugh. She couldn't believe that the man she had shared a bed with for 12 years, a lawyer no less, was spouting nothing but legal jargon. She moved closer to the table and asked again, "Legally? Sure, legally, there might be no problem. But you, your mother, and your siblings used me like a servant for 12 years while plotting this behind my back. Is that something a decent human being does? Was it so painful to even consider putting my name on a single line?" Mark, with infuriating confidence, set his newspaper down and lectured her. "According to estate law, the nature of a gift is determined by the agreement between the parties. The moment the donor, my mother, decided to give the assets to us 3 siblings, the legal effect was perfectly established. I filed the gift tax returns myself, cleanly. The titles have all been transferred. What are you going to do about it now?" Jennifer felt her heart tear in two. His words, "perfectly established," stabbed her like a dagger. She raised her voice. "Perfectly? Leaving me out is perfect in your eyes? What about the 12 years I supported you while you studied for the bar? What about when I held your mother's hand in the hospital after her knee surgery, cleaning up after her? Is that not covered by the law? What law is supposed to compensate me for that? Mark sighed deeply and then uttered a truly cruel remark. Jennifer, try to understand. From my mother's perspective, she wanted to pass down her assets to her children intact. If a property was in your name, it would become marital property, subject to division if we were to ever get divorced. My mother didn't want that risk. Hearing the word divorce fall so easily from her husband's lips was a splash of cold water to Jennifer's face. It was then she was certain. These people never saw me as family, but as a disposable part to be replaced at any time. A bitter smile played on her lips. A risk? Was I the risk to your family? For 12 years, I put up with everything without a single complaint, preparing for every holiday, catering to every whim of your family. That was the risk? Mark glanced at his watch and stood up, retorting coldly. That was your duty as a daughter-in-law. It's you who's being strange, connecting that to property. I have to get to the office now, so let's drop it. We'll talk when I get home. As the sound of the front doors slamming shut echoed through the house, Jennifer sank to the floor, clenching her fists. Seeing her husband's arrogant confidence that there were no legal issues, she made a new resolve. All right, you love the law and numbers so much? Let's see this through to the very end with law and numbers. Jennifer went straight to her husband's home office. She turned on his computer, which she rarely ever touched. The password, predictably, was their wedding anniversary. She opened the File Explorer and began digging through recent documents. Finally, she found a folder named Helen Parker, Estate Plan. When she clicked it, a flood of files poured out. Gift agreements, gift tax returns, and even a memo file detailing various loopholes to reduce taxes. As she checked the file creation dates, a chill ran down her spine. December 29th of last year. That was the day she had been running around the market since dawn, preparing food for her father-in-law's memorial. While she was in the kitchen, choking on the smell of roasting turkey, her husband had been in his office, drafting the documents that would completely exclude her. The memo file contained something even more shocking. The phrase, exclusion of daughter-in-law per mother's strong request, strategy to minimize property division risk, was clearly written. With a trembling hand, Jennifer copied all the files onto the USB drive. Then, using all the knowledge she had accumulated as a real estate agent, she began to analyze the documents. As she reviewed them, her eyes sharpened. The appraised value of the properties Helen had gifted was ridiculously low. It was clear evidence that they had reported a value far below the market rate to reduce their gift tax liability. No legal issues, you said? You play games like this to dodge taxes? Jennifer punched numbers into a calculator, determining the difference between the actual market value and the reported value. The discrepancy alone amounted to hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was a serious matter that could lead to a major IRS audit. Jennifer began to meticulously document the evidence in a notebook. But she didn't stop there. From a deep drawer, she pulled out 12 years of household account books and stacks of receipts. Whenever her mother-in-law was hospitalized, Mark had used the excuse of being busy, and her brother-in-law had claimed to have no money, so all the medical bills and prescription costs had come out of Jennifer's bank account. Jennifer opened an Excel spreadsheet and began entering the expenses by date. Hospital bills alone totaled over $25,000. The cost for the two major family gatherings and holidays each year came to $12,000. Adding in the cash gifts for birthdays and other family events, the total soared past $50,000. It was the hard-earned money Jennifer had poured into her husband's family for 12 years. She took a photo of every single receipt and scanned them. Late that evening, when Mark opened the front door, Jennifer was sitting on the sofa in the dark. He flicked on the lights and said irritably, "Geez, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? Did you make dinner? I'm starving." Jennifer slowly stood up and placed the USB drive and a thick stack of papers on the table. When Mark asked, with a puzzled expression, what it was, Jennifer answered calmly, "They're the gift documents I copied from your computer. The perfect documents you drafted in secret the day before the memorial." The note about exclusion of daughter-in-law was very impressive. Mark's face turned pale as he began to panic. "Do you know what a serious crime it is to go through someone else's computer? Give that to me, now." As he lunged for the USB drive, Jennifer coldly blocked him and continued, "A crime? And what about you? Is it not a crime to file a fraudulent report with a lowered property appraisal to evade taxes? As a real estate agent, I can tell you that if I report this to the IRS, your law license will be in jeopardy. And look at these receipts. This is a record of the $50,000 I spent on your family over the past 12 years. I'm going to get back every cent I spent, just like you said by the law." Mark was speechless, his mouth hanging open. Jennifer went into the bedroom, grabbed her bag, and came out to deliver the final blow. "You said there were no legal issues, right? Well, I'm going to handle this according to the law now, too. You just sit back and watch how the impenetrable fortress you designed comes crumbling down. This is just the beginning." Jennifer walked out of the house, leaving Mark standing stunned and shouting behind her. The night air was cold, but her heart burned hot with the fire of vengeance. To the family that had treated her 12 years of devotion like garbage, Jennifer was prepared to use all of her professional expertise to deliver the most devastating and righteous retribution. 99 calls. It's so absurd I can't even laugh. Is it even possible for one person to get this many calls in a single day? Jennifer, her eyes bloodshot, stared down at the list of missed calls that filled her phone screen. At the top, the number 99 glowed in bright red. This was the total number of calls she had received from her in-laws in just one day. The family who had relied on Jennifer to clean up all their messes for 12 years still saw her as their on-call servant. The ordeal had begun at 6 a.m. A sharp ringtone shattered her deep sleep. It was her sister-in-law, Susan. As soon as Jennifer answered, Susan yelled frantically, "Jen, it's an emergency." Mom collapsed and was rushed to the ER. "You have to get to UCLA Medical Center right away." Jennifer's heart sank. She scrambled to get dressed, asking, "Which hospital?" "I'm on my way." "Are you heading there now?" Susan, in a tone that suggested it was the most obvious thing in the world, shamelessly deflected. "Oh, I can't go now. I have to get the kids ready for school, and my husband needs to get to work. You know how crazy mornings are. You go first and see what's going on, then call me." Susan said what she needed to and hung up. Shaking off an uneasy feeling, Jennifer grabbed her bag and left. On the frantic drive to the hospital, her phone buzzed nonstop. This time it was her brother-in-law, Michael. "Jen, how's Mom? It's not too serious, is it?" Clutching the steering wheel, Jennifer replied in a low voice. "I'm on my way there now, so I don't know yet." "You're in town, Michael. Shouldn't you tell your boss and come to the hospital?" Michael shamelessly started making excuses. "Oh, Jen, I'm still new at this company. I can't just leave whenever I want. Since you're there, it's fine if I don't come right now, right? I'll check in this afternoon and stop by after work." When she arrived at the emergency room, her mother-in-law was lying pale on a gurney, covered with a white sheet. A doctor, flipping through a chart, approached and asked if she was the guardian. When Jennifer identified herself as the eldest daughter-in-law, the doctor explained with a serious expression, "The patient's blood pressure was dangerously high. She was lucky. We need to run some comprehensive tests and admit her. We need a guardian signature here." The guardian's signature line on the form he handed her was blank. When the doctor asked if her children hadn't arrived yet, Jennifer couldn't answer. She checked the family group chat, but it was silent, a digital graveyard. Not a single one of them had asked about their mother's condition or said they were on their way. With a bitter taste in her mouth, Jennifer signed her name on the guardian line. "Who should we list as the children for contact?" the nurse asked. Jennifer hesitated for a moment before saying, "For now, I'll handle everything. Her children will be here later." At 10 a.m., Susan called again, her voice now cheerful. "Jen, did you get Mom all checked in? I'm at the hair salon right now. I booked this a month ago, and the cancellation fee is enormous. I feel so much better knowing you're there with her. I'll come by this afternoon after I'm done." Jennifer was dumbfounded, her voice rising. "Susan, your mother is in the hospital, and you're worried about a hair salon? You're getting your hair done while you leave your mother to me because you're worried about a cancellation fee." Susan, in turn, snapped back irritably. "Jen, don't be so petty. You're already there. What difference would it make if I came now? You're the daughter-in-law, and I'm the daughter. Can't you be a little more understanding? Mom would probably prefer it if I looked pretty when she wakes up." Around lunchtime, a call came from her sister-in-law, Michelle. "Jen, I heard Helen is very sick. You must be having a tough time. By the way, have you hired a caregiver? We can't possibly make it with the kids' school and activities. You're so resourceful. Could you find a good one for us? You can pay for it, and we'll reimburse you later." Michelle breezily discussed money, and then hung up. At 3 p.m., her husband, Mark, finally called. "Jen, which room is Mom in? I have a major trial today, so there's no way I can make it." A lawyer can't just break a commitment to a client. You'll be at the hospital until this evening, right? His voice held not a shred of apology. Jennifer bit her lip and asked, "She's your mother. Shouldn't you, her son, be here acting as her guardian? Why am I the only one here doing this?" Mark raised his voice, berating her. "What is wrong with you today? Do you think I'm out having fun? I'm working. Is it so unfair for a daughter-in-law to be by her mother-in-law's side when she's sick? You've been acting so strange lately." By 10 p.m., a cold darkness had settled over the hospital room. A nurse came in with a form, explaining the next day's test schedule. She then added, "When are her children going to arrive? The hospital bill for today needs to be settled by tonight." Jennifer sighed and pulled a credit card from her wallet. "I'll pay for it. I've signed all the guardian forms." Trying to get a few moments of rest, Jennifer sat on a lobby chair and turned on her phone. The call log was still filled with 99 missed calls. Mark, 15 calls. Susan, 34. Michael, Tuve. Michelle, Fire-Atuv. Among all those calls, not a single one had contained a word of genuine concern for their mother's well-being. They were just check-in calls to dump responsibility on her, driven by the fear that their own busy lives would be disrupted or that they would have to pay the hospital bills. Edit A.M. Her phone buzzed again. It was Susan. "Jen, is Mom sleeping now? She's not scared, is she? My hair turned out so great today. I'm in such a good mood. Should I pick up some of her favorite pastries on my way tomorrow morning?" Jennifer didn't answer. She placed the phone face down. She couldn't bear to hear their phony voices anymore. She took out her laptop and quietly opened her Excel file. She uploaded a photo of the hospital bill she had just paid and meticulously entered the date and amount. Her next task was to screenshot her call log. "You push all the responsibility onto me, but when it came to dividing the assets, you said I wasn't family? Fine. Let's see how this plays out. I'm going to make you pay for everything you've done to me, one number at a time." Jennifer saved the file with a cold. The Kim Jennifer, who had been a slave and a doormat to her in-laws for 12 years, was gone. She was now forging every record of their neglect and dereliction of duty into a blade of vengeance. The common-sense principle that those who take the assets must also bear the responsibility was a lesson she was now fully prepared to teach them in the most brutal and legal way possible. A caregiver? Are you out of your mind? You want to throw away a good $3,500 a month on a stranger? You really have no idea how hard it is to earn money, do you? Helen, her mother-in-law, propped up on her hospital bed, shrieked as she threw the caregiver agency's quote to the floor. Jennifer picked up the scattered papers and continued in a calm but firm tone. "Helen, the daily rate for a caregiver is over $100. That's more than $3,500 a month. There's a limit to how much I can do on my own. Cleaning up after you and staying up all night. I can't just keep my real estate office closed indefinitely." Helen scoffed, glaring at her. "And who's going to pay that $3,500? You? I will not allow my son's hard-earned money to be spent on that. I don't want to be such a burden on my children. So you just do it. What is a daughter-in-law's duty? Anyway, it's only natural to care for your mother-in-law at times like this." Jennifer bit her lip, utterly speechless. "Helen, I have my own job and my own income. Do you know how many deals I'm losing every day I'm stuck here?" she argued. But Helen didn't even pretend to listen. "What's so important about your work? When a family elder is sick, the proper thing to do is to drop everything and come running. With you here, I know I'll be taken care of meticulously. Why do you keep trying to push me off on a stranger? Don't tell me you're doing this because you find taking care of your mother-in-law a hassle." Helen irritably kicked her blankets and turned to face the wall. Jennifer, trying to calm her burning frustration, sat on a bench in the hallway and called her husband. "Mark, your mother absolutely refuses to have a caregiver. She's telling me to do everything, and I'm at my breaking point. Can you please talk to your siblings and try to persuade her?" Mark sighed with annoyance. "Jennifer, you know what Mom's like. Once she gets stubborn, there's no changing her mind. It just means she trusts and relies on you that much. Can't you try to see it in a positive light? My siblings and I are all swamped right now. Just tough it out for a few more days." Mark tossed out the words casually and then hung up, saying he had to prepare for a trial. Tears welled in Jennifer's eyes, but she clenched her jaw and fought them back. That night, she began her vigil in the hard, uncomfortable visitor's chair, staying awake all night. At 3 a.m., like clockwork, Helen would shake her awake. "Jennifer, I'm thirsty. Give me some water and massage my back. This bed is so hard I can't sleep. Stumbling to her feet, Jennifer would bring a cup of water and massage Helen's legs and back. Even as she received Jennifer's care, Helen never stopped complaining. Why don't the nurses ever come? I press the button, and it takes them forever to drag themselves in here. See, even if you're not blood, it's comforting to have a daughter-in-law by my side. If we had hired a caregiver, she'd be sound asleep, and I'd be dying of thirst. Helen was exploiting Jennifer's labor as if it were her divine right. On the third day, Jennifer took a short break and checked her phone. What she saw made her blood run cold. Her sister-in-law, Susan, had posted a new photo on social media. It was a picture of Susan, wearing sunglasses, smiling elegantly as she sipped a cocktail against the backdrop of a turquoise beach in the Bahamas. Below the photo were hashtags like number healing, number life is good. With trembling hands, Jennifer called her. Susan, are you in the Bahamas right now? Your mother is in the hospital. She almost died and just got moved to a regular room, and you went on vacation. Susan replied in a sickeningly cheerful voice. Oh, Jen. Yes, our family vacation was planned a week ago. We couldn't cancel. The cancellation fee would have been thousands of dollars. And you're there, aren't you? I'm not a doctor. What could I do even if I came? Mom even told me to go and have a good time. Jennifer stood there, speechless. Susan added insult to injury, saying, You take such good care of Mom. I can relax and enjoy myself without any worries. Before hanging up, swallowing her rage, she called her brother-in-law, Michael. This time, she could hear the sounds of a poolside party in Thailand in the background. Jen, I'm in Cancun. Michelle, the kids, and I decided to take a big trip for their school break. I heard about Mom, but you're so thorough and take such good care of her. So, we're not worried. We'll be back in a week and head straight to the hospital. Please take good care of her. Michael and his wife Michelle were exactly the same. The children who had inherited 10 properties were living it up on luxurious overseas trips worth thousands, while the daughter-in-law, who hadn't received a single square foot of land, was in a hospital room, wiping her mother-in-law's sweat and changing her bedpans. Jennifer let out a bitter laugh and quietly sat down in the hospital chair, taking out her notebook. She began to write, meticulously. February 3rd, 6 p.m. to next day 8 a.m., 14 hours of overnight care performed. Patient diaper change, 3 times. Provided water, 5 times. Body massage, 2 times. Jennifer calculated the value of her labor, setting an hourly rate higher than the market standard. Her work for the week totaled over 98 hours, which translated to a value well over $1,500. Next to it, in large red letters, she wrote, Children who inherited 10 properties are on overseas vacations. Daughter-in-law, excluded from inheritance, is being exploited for unpaid caregiving labor. Will bill for all time and expenses. The weekend came and went, but the children never appeared. Susan sent a text saying she was too tired from her trip and would rest for 2 more days. Michael claimed he had to work on the weekend to catch up on a backlog at the office. Helen, seeing her children's empty chairs, tutted in disappointment, but showed no mercy in ordering Jennifer around. Jennifer, wash my back. I'm sweaty and it's itchy. You have such skillful hands. Susan hates it when I ask her to do things like this. A daughter-in-law really is the best. At Helen's phony praise, Jennifer thought to herself, That's right, Helen. You can look forward to seeing the bill for this best service later on. Wiping Helen's back, Jennifer sat down again and opened her notebook. February 10th, 2 a.m. Assisted patient to the restroom and performed hygiene care, 15 minutes. Everything was evidence. Everything was a record. Jennifer no longer cried in frustration. While her children were spending money on vacation, Jennifer was in a hospital room, meticulously tallying their debts. The self-evident legal principle that those with the assets must also bear the responsibility was a lesson she was preparing to prove with this very notebook. Jennifer looked at the red numbers filling her phone screen and let out a hollow laugh. The incessant vibration that had plagued her all day still echoed in her ears like tinnitus. After 6 p.m., her phone began to ring violently again. This time, it was an unsaved, unfamiliar number. Hello? A young man's voice answered. Jennifer? It's Jason, your brother-in-law. You remember me, right? It was Michelle's younger brother. Jennifer frowned, wondering why her brother-in-law's brother was calling her at this hour. When she asked what was wrong, Jason continued in a patronizing tone. Well, it's about my sister, Michelle. She's been under a lot of stress lately because of her mother-in-law's care. Since you're the eldest daughter-in-law, I thought you should be helping out a bit more proactively, so I called. Jennifer was so flabbergasted she almost choked. Michelle hadn't shown her face at the hospital even once. She couldn't fathom what kind of stress she could possibly be under. Jason, Michelle hasn't been here a single time since her mother was admitted. What stress are you talking about? I'm the one physically here, providing the care. Do you really think it makes sense for her to be mentally exhausted? Jason coughed awkwardly, then switched to a lecturing tone. Jennifer, you're still the eldest daughter-in-law. The younger ones learn by watching their elders. You should be more considerate of how sorry my sister feels for not being able to go. If you act so cold, how can she rest easy? Clenching the steering wheel, Jennifer retorted icily. Jason, being the eldest daughter-in-law doesn't mean I'm the family's unpaid caregiver. And I don't think this is a matter for an in-law's brother to be meddling in. Hey, come on, Jennifer. Why be so calculating? We're family. Isn't it just part of the culture for the daughter-in-law, especially the eldest, to take charge of caring for her mother-in-law? At Jason's entitled attitude, Jennifer fell silent for a moment before murmuring, Jason, I think you have the wrong number. When he asked what she meant, flustered, Jennifer stated flatly, you have no authority to tell me what to do. Check the number and don't call me about this again. I'm hanging up. She ended the call before he could reply. Less than 3 minutes later, an furious call came from Michelle. Jen, what did you just say to my brother? Wrong number? He called you out of genuine concern, and you humiliate him like that? How could you be so rude? Jennifer matched Michelle's sharp tone with her own cold one. Concern? What concern from someone who's never even been here? While I've been rotting in this hospital for 2 weeks, you all were on vacation and out shopping. And now you have your brother call to pressure me into doing a better job? You think that's genuine concern? Michelle began to rationalize in an annoyed voice. I want to come, but you know I can't because of the kids. As the eldest, you should be the one holding the family together. If you're going to be so calculating, counting every hour and every penny, what does that make us look like? Why should we spend good money on a caregiver when you're there? Does that even make sense? So your time is money, but my time is dirt? My income and my health mean nothing. Jennifer didn't wait for an answer before hanging up. 10 minutes later, a message from Michelle appeared in the family group chat. The eldest is being so sensitive lately, you can't even talk to her. Everyone be careful. Immediately, Susan and Michael chimed in, agreeing that Jen has always been a bit moody. Jennifer watched the ugly exchange unfold, then dropped a bombshell. I'm not being sensitive. I'm being precise. I am not your unpaid caregiver. I have provided 98 hours of care over the past 2 weeks. At the standard caregiver rate, that comes to $1,500. I expect those of you who receive the inheritance to divide this amount and deposit it into my account by the end of this week. Instantly, the read receipt numbers in the chat disappeared, but no one replied. Jennifer delivered the final blow. Starting tomorrow, I will not be coming to the hospital. I have my own work and my own life. You can hire a caregiver or the children can come themselves. That's your problem. That is all. After sending the message, Jennifer turned off her phone without a second thought. An hour later, as she was dozing in the hospital chair, her husband, Mark, burst into the room, panting. He had clearly seen the group chat. His face was flushed with rage. Jennifer, are you crazy? Why would you post something like that in the group chat? Why would you bring up money among family? It's so cheap. Without opening her eyes, Jennifer replied quietly, if being family means demanding one-sided sacrifice, then I don't need that kind of family. If I'm family, I deserve a minimum level of respect. To all of you, I'm nothing more than free labor to be exploited. Mark, grabbing the back of his neck as if he were about to have a stroke, yelled, You've really lost it. Are you trying to bring shame on this entire family? Apologize immediately and be here tomorrow. Instead of answering, Jennifer picked up her bag and stood up. Helen, who had been lying in bed watching the whole scene, rebuked Jennifer with a frosty glare. Jennifer, what kind of tone is that in front of your elders? A daughter-in-law should know her place. With her hand on the doorknob, Jennifer turned and looked directly at her mother-in-law. Helen, a daughter-in-law, is also a human being with feelings and self-respect that needs to be protected. You gave all your assets to your children. So now, let your children take care of you. As for me, I'm stepping out of line. Jennifer left the room and walked away without looking back. She could hear Mark screaming, "Hey, Jennifer," behind her, but it didn't matter. Taking out her notebook, she firmly wrote next to today's date, February 15th. Strike begins. The mask of the good daughter-in-law was now completely off. Walking down the dark hospital corridor, Jennifer allowed herself a small smile. All that was left was to watch the hell that would unfold as the ones who had greedily taken all the assets were forced to bear the heavy burden of responsibility. The rental income from those 10 properties is over $7,000 a month. That's $84,000 a year, and over $1 million in 12 years. So where did all that money go? Jennifer muttered to herself, her eyes cold as she printed out the Excel file. With each sheet of paper the printer spat out, her resolve hardened. It was the third day since she had returned home from the hospital. Jennifer had locked herself in her office for days, absorbed in the task of converting 12 years of her life into cold, hard numbers. On her desk lay 12 years of household account books, credit card statements, and hospital receipts, all perfectly organized by date. Her meticulousness, honed over 12 years in the field as a real estate agent, was finally paying off. Tapping at her calculator, she said to herself, "It has to be perfect, not a single dollar off. I need to present them with numbers so flawless they can't possibly refute them." The first sheet was a list of the properties that had been in her mother-in-law's name, neatly organized by address, size, and market value. 2 condos in Beverly Hills, a villa in Santa Monica, an office building in Irvine. The total asset value came to a staggering $9.2 million. Next to it, Jennifer wrote in bold red ink, "Jennifer Kim's share, $0." The second page detailed the gift transactions. Mark, $3 million. Michael, $3.2 million. Susan, $3 million. They had divided it amongst themselves with almost mathematical equality. The third page was an estimate of the monthly rental income. Staring at the flow of that massive amount of cash, $7,000 a month, Jennifer bit her lip. While her children were splitting this money like an allowance, why was it my wallet that paid for their mother's hospital bills and family holidays? The fourth page listed all the expenses Jennifer had incurred over the past 12 years. Hospital bills, $25,000. Holiday expenses, $12,000. Special occasion gifts, $6,000. And the recently calculated value of her caregiving labor, $2,000. The total, a clear $50,000, was printed at the bottom. The fifth and final page was the most brutal, a side-by-side comparison chart. It placed the percentage of assets gifted next to the percentage of filial duty performed. The children's share of responsibility barely reached 5 to 10%, while Jennifer's, who had received nothing, was close to 80%. Placing the documents in a folder, she said with determination, "It's time to show them. Time to show them just how terrifying the law and numbers they love so much can be." When she got home that evening, her husband was lying on the living room sofa, casually watching TV. When he saw her, he asked what was for dinner. Instead of answering, Jennifer slammed the folder down on the coffee table. "What's this? Property listings? Why are you looking at these?" Mark asked, startled. Jennifer crossed her arms and replied coldly, "Read to the end. It's the kind of data you, as a lawyer, will appreciate most. The numbers will explain, in great detail, how your family exploited me for 12 years." Mark's expression changed with every page he turned. He frowned at the $9.2 million asset figure, and by the time he reached Jennifer's expense list and the filial duty chart, his hands were visibly shaking. He looked up, his voice trembling. "Jennifer, why did you do all this? We're family. Isn't it too much to calculate everything like this?" Jennifer leaned forward, her hands on the table, and looked him straight in the eye. "Family? You were the one talking about divorce risk and treating me like an outsider when you divided the assets, and now you're talking about family? I spent $50,000 of my own money and poured my labor into this family for 12 years, and my compensation is $0. You're a lawyer, Mark. Does this look fair to you? You said there were no legal issues. Well, I'm going the legal route now. A lawsuit for unjust enrichment. You know what that is, right?" Mark stared at her, horrified. "You're not seriously going to do that, are you? Sue your mother-in-law and your husband? Why not? You all benefited from my one-sided sacrifice without just cause. I'm going to get back my $50,000, and I'm going to get compensation for the 12 years of labor I provided. Your family is amazing. When there's work to be done, The daughter-in-law is family. When there's money to be divided, only blood is family. Why should I continue to sacrifice myself for such a contradictory group? As she turned to go to the bedroom, Jennifer stopped and threw one last parting shot. Oh, and about that $7,000 a month in rent. You said it was for your mother's living expenses, so why did you make me pay her hospital bills? You all split that money as your personal allowance, didn't you? I have the proof. I'll see you in court. The bedroom doors slammed shut, leaving Mark alone in the living room, his face pale as he stared blankly at the documents. Inside the room, Jennifer opened her laptop, searched for a lawyer specializing in unjust enrichment cases, and booked a consultation. In the description field, she typed clearly, claim for 12 years of financial support and exploited labor for in-laws. There was no hesitation in her finger as she clicked the send button. Looking at the consultation confirmed message on the screen, Jennifer quietly declared to the darkness outside her window, "Numbers don't lie. I'm about to show you exactly what the time of the daughter-in-law you all ignored was worth." She closed the laptop and took a long, deep breath. It was the sound of 12 years of resentment being released, and the prelude to a thorough and calculated retribution. The real war had just begun. Guardian, the patient's blood pressure is dropping. Her condition is deteriorating rapidly. You need to call her family and tell them to come to the hospital now. A nurse rushed into the room, shouting. The monitor was emitting a sharp, piercing alarm. But Jennifer, sitting in the chair by the bed, remained perfectly still, merely nodding her head. All right, I'll contact them. You need to hurry. This isn't a situation one guardian can handle alone. Her other children need to be here immediately. After the nurse rushed out, Jennifer took out her phone but only stared blankly at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the group chat icon, but she quickly pushed the phone deep into her bag. I'm doing this on purpose. I'm going to show you just how indifferent the daughter-in-law you trusted so completely can be. Jennifer stared out at the dark landscape and muttered coolly. For 12 years, she had done all the dirty work for this family, and when she had begged for help, pleaded for them to save her, they hadn't batted an eye. Now, it was their turn to pay the price. By 11 a.m., Helen's blood pressure had dropped to 80/50. A doctor ran in with a chart and began emergency procedures. Wiping sweat from his brow, he asked Jennifer urgently, Guardian, the patient is in very critical condition. Where are her children? We may need to prepare for the worst. Yes, I've contacted them all. They'll be here soon. Jennifer lied without blinking. In truth, she hadn't contacted a single one of them. The doctor, seemingly reassured by her calm demeanor, nodded and went back to his work. Jennifer sat back down and opened the family group chat. The last message was from 3 days ago. A mocking text from Michelle that read, Jen is acting so weird these days. Jennifer quietly turned off her phone. The afternoon passed in silence. A call from her husband, Mark, came around 2 p.m. Jennifer didn't answer. A text arrived soon after. Jen, how's mom? I have an important trial today, can't get away. If nothing's wrong, I'll stop by tonight. I'm relieved you're there. Jennifer's only reply was to switch her phone to silent mode. At 4 p.m., a flood of texts came from her sister-in-law. Jen, why aren't you answering? Is mom okay? Since you're there, it's okay if I go to the department store sale today, right? Jennifer read the galling messages and, pretending she hadn't seen them, tossed her phone back into her bag. At 6 p.m., a nurse came in again, looking troubled. Guardian, the patient's condition continues to decline. Are her children really not coming? This is too serious a situation for a daughter-in-law to decide on her own. I keep calling, but they must be busy. Let's just wait a little longer. Jennifer replied calmly, as if discussing a stranger's affairs. The nurse left, sighing in disbelief. Jennifer looked down at her mother-in-law, who was struggling to breathe under an oxygen mask, and whispered coldly, Look, Helen, your children, who took all $9 million of your assets, where are they now? Only the daughter-in-law, who spent $50,000 on hospital bills, is here. Tell your children to bear that heavy responsibility themselves. I'm washing my hands of it. By 9 p.m., the situation had reached a critical point. A doctor came in with a grave face and confronted Jennifer, warning that legal issues could arise from a lack of immediate family during an emergency. He demanded that she call the children directly. Now, playing dumb, Jennifer pointed to the numbers for Mark and Susan on the chart. Doctor, I've called over 100 times, and they don't answer. Could the hospital please try calling them? I think they might be blocking my number. A nurse, looking puzzled, went out and returned 10 minutes later. Her face pale. All three children were either not answering or were hanging up, saying they were busy. Mark had even yelled at the nurse. "My wife is there. Why do you keep calling me?" At 11 p.m., an ugly, invisible war was being waged over the phone in the hospital corridors. Susan would call Michael, screaming, "You go. I'm busy." And Michael would retort, "Jen is there. Why should I go?" They were only a family when it came to dividing assets. When it came to caring for their dying mother, they were complete strangers. At 3 a.m., miraculously, Helen's condition stabilized slightly. After the doctor announced she had passed the crisis, Jennifer finally leaned back in her chair. And at 5 a.m., a disheveled Mark finally burst into the room. Mom, are you okay?" "Jennifer, why didn't you answer my calls? Are you trying to worry me to death?" Mark's first words were of blame. Jennifer slowly rose, packed her bag, and asked coldly, "You're just getting here now? While you were too busy to be disturbed, your mother was at death's door. But the nurse called and said you were here when she was critical. So it was handled, right?" At Mark's shameless response, Jennifer gave a bitter smile. "No, it's not handled. Change of guardian. The son is here, so I'm clocking out. My duties as a daughter-in-law officially ended at this very moment. From now on, all hospital bills and responsibilities are on you, the ones who receive the most assets. You figure it out." Jennifer coldly shook off Mark's hand as he tried to stop her and walked out of the room. A passing nurse gave her a sympathetic look, but Jennifer felt nothing but relief. Leaving the hospital, she saw the dawn sky turning a hopeful blue. Getting into her car, she gripped the steering wheel and muttered, "A family where the ones who receive the most arrive the latest. Now, I'll get to watch with my own two eyes how that kind of family falls apart." She pressed the accelerator, leaving the hospital far behind. The time for her true revenge, the legal claim she had prepared, was fast approaching, ready to tighten its grip around their necks. "A change of guardian form, you say?" The admissions clerk took the document with a puzzled look, tilting her head. For the entire duration of the hospital stay, Jennifer, the daughter-in-law, had handled all admissions procedures and paid every bill. But Jennifer met her gaze without wavering and answered firmly, "Yes, that's correct. As of today, I am relinquishing my status as guardian. Please change it to the patient's son, Mark Parker. From now on, all communication and decisions should be directed to him." When the clerk asked why she was suddenly making a change, Jennifer delivered a simple but pointed remark. "It's just common sense that the people who inherit the assets should also bear the responsibility. I was completely excluded from that inheritance list. I'm just returning to my proper place." The clerk looked uncomfortable, but under Jennifer's intense gaze, she began to process the paperwork, adding that the new guardian's signature was required. Jennifer immediately went up to the hospital room, grabbed Mark, who was staring blankly at his phone, and dragged him downstairs. Mark, having no idea what was happening, turned pale when he saw the form. "Jennifer, what is this? Why are you suddenly making me the guardian? You've been handling everything until now. It's not sudden. She's your mother, and you're the son who inherited $3 million in assets. It's only natural that you should be the guardian. Didn't you tell me I was an outsider to this family? Why should an outsider, who shares no blood and got no assets, continue to act as guardian for someone else's parent?" Mark, clearly conscious of the eyes on them, grew flustered and tried to pull her outside. But Jennifer shook him off and placed a pen firmly in front of him. "Sign it. I won't say it again. The moment you sign this, every call from this hospital comes to you. Decisions about surgery, a caregiver who quit, bill payments, all of it." Mark hesitated, his hand trembling as he picked up the pen, weighed down by the word responsibility. He tried to find an escape, mumbling that he should ask his mother first, but Jennifer cornered him, saying the children had to make the decision anyway. Finally, reluctantly, Mark signed his name. Back at home, Jennifer converted her Excel file into a PDF and posted it in the family group chat. It was an itemized bill for $50,000, covering 12 years of hospital bills, holiday expenses, and the monetized value of her caregiving labor. "This is a list of expenses I have incurred over the past 12 years. As I received $0 from the estate, I expect that all future responsibilities of care will be shared equally among the children who hold the assets. Thank you." The moment she sent the message, the group chat exploded. Susan was the first to call, screaming into the phone. Jen, are you insane? Why would you post such a cheap, calculating bill in the family chat? How could you do this to family? Family? Susan, did you ask me when you took your $3 million property? Is that what you call family scheming to divide the assets among yourselves while expecting me, the daughter-in-law, to do all the hard work? You received a $3 million inheritance. You need to bear a $3 million weight of responsibility. If you don't like it, you can give it all back. Jennifer said her piece and hung up. Next came a protesting call from Michael, but her answer was the same. Take responsibility in proportion to what you received. Don't even think about using me as free labor anymore. She immediately blocked Michelle after receiving a string of snarky texts. From the next day on, Jennifer truly did not go to the hospital. She focused solely on her work, beginning to reclaim her life. Mark sent frequent texts, trying to gild her by saying their mother was angry and was asking for her. But Jennifer ended the conversation with a single reply. I am not the guardian. You children can go and appease your mother or take care of her. I am now the master of my own time. A week later, a comical scene unfolded at the hospital. The three siblings, Susan, Michael, and Mark, were gathered in the hallway, arguing loudly over who would stay the night. Mark, I have to take the kids to school tomorrow. You can stay tonight. Don't you know I have a major trial tomorrow? Michael, you take a day off and stay. I'm already on thin ice at my company. Where on earth is Jen, anyway? The three of them passed the buck, refusing to yield an inch. Lying in her bed, watching the spectacle, Helen trembled with betrayal and rage. She had thought that by giving her children everything, she would be doted on for the rest of her life. But when push came to shove, the true nature of her children, worse even than the daughter-in-law she scorned, was laid bare. Still, Helen clung to her pride, blaming only Jennifer. That wicked woman has ruined my children. After everything I did for her. Back in her office, Jennifer enjoyed a moment of peace, sipping tea as she watched the sunset. A text from her lawyer's office confirmed her consultation. She smiled and replied, I'm ready. See you tomorrow. The children, who had sweetly pocketed the assets and callously tossed the responsibility to their sister-in-law. The mother-in-law, who had treated her daughter-in-law as a disposable commodity. Jennifer would now watch as they turned on each other and crumbled from within. If she had no share in the assets, then she had no share in the responsibility. It was a lesson they were all about to learn, the hard way. Jennifer was, at long last, truly free,